Hi there, I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, I have Scott Roller. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thank you, EY. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely. I see you've copied my idea of having some cool backgrounds.
Yes, I have your or a Ninja motorcycle in the background here.
It is a lovely Ninja motorcycle. I have taken one like that out several times. Several times.
Have you
Have you
considered
ever
getting a
taken them?
Have you considered getting a new one recently?
I have for several reasons, but the two things keeping me back at the moment is the financial cost of it and the fact that I would need to get a lot more security in place because
Okay.
I'm not out there gardening it with my ninja weaponry the entire time. But have you ever gone on a motorbike, ninja or otherwise?
I've ridden on several and mostly smaller, more off-road, dirt bike type of things, four wheelers and dirt bikes, but never anything like a Ninja or
Uh,
anything, anything that's that fast that goes on the highway and goes on an actual motorway. Yeah.
got it. Maybe you should try one day.
I probably should. I don't know. I They seem like a lot of fun. I guess they seem without having done it in the past, a little bit on the dangerous side, but it's probably a lot of fun. Yeah.
It can be. Talking of
Mhm.
highways, of course, I understand you have enjoyment of traveling the USA and the world, which is why I have the background that I do with a lovely
Right.
signpost.
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
can
Yeah.
you tell
So
us about some
we
really cool places in the USA that you've been?
Right. So my family and I have two children and a wife. We've done quite a bit of traveling around the U.S. and the U.S. is I don't know if it's roughly the same size as Europe, but I know that traveling Europe is kind of the same thing as traveling around the U.S. Some of the states are the same size as countries over there, and so
Yeah.
I've traveled all the way out east to North Carolina to the Outer Banks. Traveled up north. We went to actually went to Canada and saw Women's World Cup soccer up there, which is also why I'm wearing
Ah,
my England jersey. I know that you're English, and I'm wearing my English World Cup jersey from several years ago. And let's see, this July we're planning a trip out to Utah. There's a really cool kind of cowboy land, out there, a lot of rocks and cool features. We're going to go to the Grand Canyon while we're out there. So we're going to take a 2 week trip out west and just hike
wow.
around and see some nature.
Remember to pack sunscreen.
Oh, definitely. And some of those places, it's the high desert. It's very dry, hot, sunny. Yeah, lots of water too. Don't want to get dehydrated.
Very important. So, where's your favorite place you've been? It can be within the US or can be globally.
Right. I don't. When I was back in high school, I was able to go on a trip with some other students, and we went to Russia, and I really loved that. That was awesome. We went to Moscow, St. Petersburg. We were at a camp kind of in rural Russia. I'm not even really sure where it was, but I was too young to really to look at the map and kind of realize where we were. But that was fun with a lot of at that time the same age Russian kids,
Okay.
and it was a great experience. I think Russia's changed quite a bit since then. That was early 90s when I was over there. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I look forward to traveling again in the future when plane travel is available and I'd love to come over to Europe again and check that out and be a part of, whatever BizApps conferences that are available while we're out there. Yeah.
Official or unofficial?
Official or unofficial. Right. Right. The unofficial ones are definitely more fun than the official ones.
So I'm told. So I'm told. I can't possibly comment on any unofficial because that's happening, of course. First rule of such events is you don't talk about such events. So
That's
definitely.
right. Just like Fight Club. Yeah.
Just like Fight Club. See, it's like Fight Club knew that BizApps was coming along and just, paved a path for it.
Right. 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 Yeah.
I think we're all looking forward to when travel opens up again, and a lot of us can get together, and I'm sure it's going to be epic.
Yes, it will be. It may be the unofficial ones may be a little scary at the beginning, but do you travel over to the United States very often, EY?
I had opportunity early in my life to do so. Yes, I was commuting, not quite commuting. I was going quite a few times a year.
Okay.
So I do enjoy going to the States and going back to it. And yeah, it's definitely something that I'm forecasting of doing at some point.
Mm, awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. I also have a brother who's living in New York. So it'll be
Oh,
nice
you
to get over
do?
to see
Okay.
him. Yep.
Okay. Never been to New York. Do you like New York?
It's interesting.
It's interesting. Okay.
It's very, very hectic. I mean, it's a bit like London in the sense of being very hectic at places and stuff. I personally, I much preferred when I was traveling the West Coast. Um, I traveled up and down the West Coast, so LA can also be hectic, but outside of LA, it's very relaxed, very calm life.
Right.
So
Right.
I really
Right.
enjoyed that bit.
Yeah. Yeah. We took a trip. My wife and I took a trip out there for a honeymoon, actually, to Napa Valley, the wine country, and it
Ah,
was beautiful, relaxing. Drank some wine. It was a really good time. Yeah.
yeah. I have friends who have been there and stuff, so good. So
Yeah.
going on from motorbikes and traveling to the oops factor, what do you have to share with us today?
Yeah. So I was going to hit on being proud about process and about being young in your career and learning through an oops factor. My oops, and I've had several, I think, as many people have, but the one that comes to mind is I was working on a very large project, and I had quite a bit of experience with data migration and integration, and I was using Scribe as my tool,
I
and I was
remember
very
Scribe.
right, and I was very proud about the fact that I knew Scribe, and hey, I can handle this thing. And but it was a big, huge implementation, and I was put in charge of the integration. And too late did I realize that wow, I'm a little bit in over my head here. They were looking for very more complex SQL queries than I was used to writing. They were wanting the data, millions of records to be written very quickly in overnight processes, and I was having problems fulfilling those needs. So I think I really hung on to the fact of I'm the guy. I can do this myself, and I should have just kind of given up at some point and reached out for help and maybe got some SQL help because um, it didn't reflect greatly on me, to be honest. But that was a learning process. I also think there was a lot of stress there in that project. It was a big multi-million dollar project, so it wasn't just me. There was a lot of other people that were putting stresses on getting things done. I learned
Okay.
through that process as well that it you can hang on to a position and be in love with maybe a company or a position a little bit too much, and there's happiness really needs to come into play, and you need to maybe look to make a move, which I eventually did a little bit sooner than hanging on to a bad situation for a long time. Yeah.
Got it. So how long did it take you to realize that?
Well, it was a week or so of kind of struggling of not meeting the deadlines, and then they brought in some people. Kind of once again, I was proud back then. That was several years ago. Brought in some people to help, and that kind of hit my ego a little bit as well. But they was like, we need help of writing the SQL queries properly and getting the speed up to date. So I mean, I learned a lot. I think nowadays I would ask for that help earlier. Also, with experience, you start to realize nobody knows everything, and it's okay to have teammates to ask questions of. And but back then I felt like if I didn't have the answer to it, that I was admitting that I wasn't as good as everybody else I was working with. Yeah.
Now you mentioned SQL queries, so I'm assuming that your background is not development, or at least not SQL development.
No, no, it's not. I came up in pure Dynamics or CRM as we called it in the past, and so I've never really been a true developer. I've written some JavaScript and some SQL, but everything
Okay.
was pretty much self-taught, which hence the problem with when you get involved with a really big project that kind of needs enterprise level DBA knowledge. I didn't have that knowledge, and nowadays for lack of a better term, advertise myself as a functional architect. So I know all the different pieces, and I can sit there and talk the language, and I talk to the business very well and kind of direct them down the path. But when it comes to developing, especially like .NET or anything like that, I reach out to the developers and have them step in there. Yeah.
Got it. So when was the last time you did write a SQL query? Dare I ask?
Okay. That was wow. Yeah, that was several years ago now, because everything has gone online where there's not a lot of SQL queries that get written any longer. It was probably 4 years ago now, honestly, when we were kind of getting out of the on-premise situation and going completely online. The last partner that I worked for, right now I'm independent, but the last partner I worked for was all cloud-based, so
Got it.
nothing was on-premise. So it's been since the on-premise days.
Got it. Right. So yeah, obviously things in the cloud you can't. Well, you can actually query directly against it, and for some reason now in the XRM toolbox, there's a neat little tool called SQL for CDS, which
Right.
obviously I think has been updated now to SQL for Dataverse. It's useful to be able to. So my own background, I'm not a developer either. I wrote some SQL reports back in the day, very basic, and some occasional SQL queries to get data. But it can be useful when things like the advanced find just don't do what you want it to do.
Right, and they've improved advanced find quite a bit. It used to be able not to do negative queries where you find things that don't exist, and I think you can do that a little bit better now than you had in the past. Right.
It has definitely gotten a lot better. Although amusingly today I ran up against another limitation of the advanced find. Oh, the joys. The opportunity close record is not searchable. What can I say?
Oh, okay, okay, interesting. I don't know if
Indeed.
I knew that either, but yeah.
Well, I've been doing some searching around today for ways to be able to handle things. So, with what you learned in the past, how do you apply that to projects going forward? And what sort of makes your, I'm going to use the phrase alarm bells, but what sort of thing, when you start thinking, hold on, maybe I need to get help, or maybe I need to move
Hmm.
on, or something. What would you advise people in sort of what to recognize, how to recognize things?
I think part of the problem that I had, the one that I alluded to, was that there was team members too that kind of wanted everybody to be autonomous and know everything on their own. So I think a part of it is being a part of a good team, finding a good team that you're a part of, where there's open dialogue, and it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay not to know everything. Um, I think also being very open and honest, and for me, it came later in my career where I started to realize it's okay for me not to know everything as well. Things are changing very quickly, and there's certain things that I'm good at that other people aren't, but and vice versa. So, I've already kind of alluded to it, but I think it's just open conversation. It's just and being open and honest and being self-aware, I guess, is part of it too. Of what are your talents? What aren't you strong at? Maybe what are you trying to improve upon so that you can use that later, experience-wise, but not trying to pretend or force into don't prove that you're a .NET developer if you're not a .NET developer. Don't think that you can take on a multi-million-dollar integration project if you've had some success in the past, but you never really haven't really done one. So there's a lot of that. Yeah.
So understanding our limitations and within a supportive team, communicating them so people know what we are and we are capable of.
Right, right, and I think that helps to combat the old imposter syndrome too, because I think I was way too hard on myself and expecting myself to be perfect all the time, and so that leads into when you expect yourself to be perfect and know everything, then you see imposter syndrome in yourself. But when you start to allow yourself to not be the expert at everything and have open conversations with other team members, then that imposter syndrome kind of goes away because it's okay if I bring somebody in to do something for me. I don't have to do it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And we are all human. Other people
Yeah.
are not absolute, people are knowledgeable
Right.
in their knowledge subject areas, but they don't know everything either. They also have places where they, don't know things in such good depth or even at all.
Right. It's all be accepting of each other's knowledge and that everybody can bring strengths to the table, but everybody brings a piece. Everybody's not the whole project in themselves. Everybody brings a piece to the project.
Indeed, indeed. So here's the curveball question for you. If you had to do an enterprise scale migration of
Okay.
data, what tool would you recommend nowadays?
Oh wow. You know, um, Since then, I haven't done a lot of integrations. I think that Scribe, I've heard Scribe is still a product that's out there. So I think people are using their online product. I know Kingsway Soft is very much has been in vogue, and I don't know if it still is the go-to weapon of choice. But the right now we're doing a smaller scale, kind of ongoing integrations and allowing users to import data into a COVID response project that I'm on. And we're
Right.
honestly just using the old school fill in the Excel spreadsheet, and we've given them pre-built data maps, but they're using our pre-built data maps. So really, they just give us the same data all the time and import it. And I know that's not enterprise scale, but that's currently what we're doing to kind of shorten their timeline on data input. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes old school works best.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that because
What
I've also been running COVID projects again where we have Excel templates and they fill them in and then they upload into the system. So sometimes old school does indeed work best.
Right, right. What have you seen as in your experience? What kind of integration tools have you seen out there right now?
So Scribe is still around, although it's online. Kingsway Soft is
Right.
there as well, but Azure Data Factory (ADF) is really becoming the ETL tool for choice, especially when you consider things like Service Bus. So you've got Azure Service Bus as well, and integration points and other things around it. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
definitely seeing
Okay.
much more usage of that.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, useful for you to know. If you come across data, you
Yeah,
have
it
another
is.
tool to be able to use.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I look forward to getting my feet wet in that again. I mean, it's been several years, but right. I think
Well, if I
there's
spot
things are always
if
changing. Mhm.
indeed, and if I spot a large lake of data floating around somewhere that needs to get in a system, I'll just float it across to you, and you could have a go at it.
Thanks. I in my experience, integration and migration projects are always underbid by salespeople, and they're always expected to go much quicker and much easier than they actually do, for whatever reason. So yeah, yeah,
Tell me about it. Wonderful. Well, Scott, thank you so
yeah.
much for coming on the show this evening.
Well, thank you for having me, EY. It's been great. This is a fun experience.
It's been lovely to have you on. Viewers, we hope that you've enjoyed the show as much as I have. Feel free to check out the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel, and take a look at the blog. And if you would like to come on series, feel free to hit the link in the description below, fill in your details, and I'll invite you on. But above all, have a wonderful day.